Black and white go hiking or
He's a Star Wars fan.
mountainous outdoorsman.
So those were bug out bags. Remember when Hurricane Sandy hit and everything was like shut down, people lost power, and everybody was like freaking out.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking, God forbid something like that happens again. Like at least I want to have some kind of like emergency kit. Like if something happens, I have something to be prepared. So they looked a lot cooler when they were ready. But I took the one on the left camping, so I had to kind of dismantle it. But it had a lot of stuff on there, like first aid kits, some weapons, like fire starting stuff, just survival gear essentially.
This is literally a man cave. Like this is what every man would want.
I could tell so much about you by looking in here, Steve.
So that half is my father-in-law's. He works from home. He's an electrical engineer, so that's all his stuff. Everything from
this is the good stuff.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, I mean, this is just I don't do anything in the house. Everything is out here. Did I fuck this up? No, they're all right. I was the lights in the corner. I built them. I keep seeing these ads on like Facebook and stuff for these like the same thing, but they're like $180 for half the size. I was like, that I can make that. So I just bought like PVC and I put it all together. Yeah, and so it works off the phone. Okay. So before we start, is CR and Jeff? That's how you want to be introduced?
Yeah.
Okay. Easy enough. What was that? Oh, let me turn that off. We had the music on before.
You're CR and Jeff.
I'm Jeff. Yeah, he's CR.
I'm
okay.
CR.
Last thing. That way I sync up the sound later. It's a little easier to find where the start point is. All right. You good?
Yeah.
You sure you're good? When we do it, Jeff, you might have to kind of roll this way a little bit because since the camera's there, otherwise we're only going to be looking at the side of your face.
Oh, gotcha.
So, and if you guys need to adjust the mics at all, just grab it by the arm and not the mic itself.
Gotcha.
And if you look right at the front of the mic, there's a little symbol, like a little round thing on the front of it, right underneath the mesh. You see it? That's where you want to talk into. That's the front. So if you talk into the side, it'll sound a little weird.
Cool.
Are you guys good? You comfy?
I'm very comfortable. I'm excited.
Very comfortable,
all
Steve.
right, cool. So you want to be, let's say, maybe a foot away from the mic, and you're all set.
I'm so excited. I haven't podcasted with other people.
Great.
I've podcasted virtually for like 2 weeks straight, and now I'm just excited to be around people.
Yes. I'm tired of the Zoom stuff, bro.
Yeah,
I'm really tired of it.
It's very draining.
That's why you asked me the option. I was like, "Fuck that, we're coming here."
Yeah,
I like
we're
it.
popping
I like
up.
it.
I live like 13 minutes from here.
That's
in North Plainfield.
Oh, okay. So that's
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah.
I was worried you guys were gonna have to come from like mad far.
For me, it was easy. I just moved to North Plainfield.
All right. Well, let's do the little intro here. You good? You sure you good?
Ready to go.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to A Pot Amongst Men. I'm your host, Steve B., and this is Coffee Break Conversations for the 21st Century. I have a full house today. I'm joined, first off, new face on here. You might see him a little bit. This is my little cousin, Raymond. It's really Ray J. I didn't even make that up. But he's going to be my producer in training, so he's going to sit in with us. You might hear his voice. Say hello. Give him some love.
What's going on?
And on the other side of the table, I have the two hosts of the Introverted Intuition podcast. I have Jeff.
Hello.
And I got CR.
What's going on, everybody?
Two Jersey boys. It's nice to represent the state in the house.
Yes,
absolutely.
Born and raised.
Yeah, so thank you for coming, guys.
Thanks for having us,
man.
So before we start, you want to kind of give a bit of an introduction as to who you guys are? We know you're the podcast host, but tell us a little bit about you. Like what, just a little a couple bullet points for the listeners.
My name is Jeff Kelly. I am a podcaster, clothing designer, author, soon to be best-selling author.
Hey, do me a favor, pull that a little bit away from your mouth.
Oh yeah, got you.
There you go.
And yeah, just a full every definition of what a creative is, an entrepreneur is. That is me. And yeah, I'm just happy to be here, honestly.
So if you're listening to my voice, it's your boy CR right now. I'm fresh and born out of Elizabeth, New Jersey. You know what I'm saying? I love doing music. I was born to do music. I'm a musician. I own a record label called Jump Out the Frame. That is my original passion. My father's also a musician. But I branched out into podcasting once I re-linked with a friend who goes by the name of Jeff. Yeah, he brought me and introduced me into the world of podcasting, and I fell in love with it since. And he brought me in as a guest and brought me on as a co-host later. But those are the main things I do. I also model. I've worked with some online magazines. Shout out to We Are Jersey magazine. And yeah, content creator is basically the name that I go by because I have a lot of different talents. Not to sound braggadocious, it's just how I was born, and I try to use them all, but I get distracted, so I stick to what I like the most, which is music and podcasting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've been listening to your show. Like, I found you guys. I mean, I haven't been there the whole time. I'm sorry to admit, but since I found you, I've been trying to get a feel as to who you guys are. Like, how did you guys come up with that with the podcast? 'Cause I know a lot of people have different reasons for getting into it, and it's such like a crowded field now. We're all podcasters, but it's like, what's your niche? How'd you jump into this game?
So for me, I started podcasting. I got into around 2013, 2014, and they quickly grew to be an escape for me from the darkness that depression and anxiety conjure.
Okay.
Every episode of every podcast I listened to freed me and kept me honestly sane. And it got to a certain point where I was doing nothing with the inspiration and the motivation and the peace I was gaining from these podcast episodes that I was listening to. And eventually became overwhelming, and I wanted to transfer that energy I was getting and give it to other people. And
give it a little more space.
A little more space. I'm sorry. I
get
thought I was a
some
professional.
It's a new mic. You guys are the first ones using those two. I just got them.
Awesome. So yeah, it got to a point where the inspiration, motivation, and peace I was getting from podcasts wasn't transferring to anything productive, and I decided to utilize what I was getting and create my own platform to provide the same feeling for other people. And that was 3 years ago.
Nice.
And 3 years later, almost 4 next year, it's been a life-changing experience.
Do you find that, like, because I had the same thing. I always listen to podcasts all day. With my job, I just podcast back to back, 8 hours a day, and I never felt like I wasn't getting what I needed from podcasts. I just always felt like shit, I could do this.
Yeah.
Like, not to knock on any of the people that I listen to. Some, I listen to some what I think are some great podcasts, but I think at some point most people have that feeling, I could do this.
Yes.
Like, I want to talk about what I want to talk about.
Yeah.
I always hear people like if I listen to like Joey Diaz, you know who he is?
Yes.
Like, if I heard it, he's from Jersey. So when I would hear him talk about stuff like, I took the whatever number bus in Jersey City, you know,
could totally relate.
Yeah, there's some guy doing the dope roll in the back, and they farted in his face while they were getting off when they were little kids. So, you know what I mean? But it was stuff like that was relatable. That I thought, you know what, I like that. And then I started thinking, like, nobody really does the everyday guy, the average guy talk. Like, everybody's trying to be like an actor or a comedian or something. Everybody's trying to be bigger than what they are right now.
It's just being yourself, and like, I think the small truths that we all live on a daily basis is what makes life so funny, right? We all love comedy. The thing that makes comedy so good is that it's relatable, and it's like things that we all think but don't say out loud. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And that's what makes it so funny. So I bask in that. I agree 100%.
But I kind of disagree in the fact that, like, everyone can podcast. Everyone who can speak can podcast, but this is an art form that's not meant for everybody.
I agree 100%.
You have to know your lane. You have to know your strength, because we don't need this market already even more oversaturated than it already is.
That's for sure.
That's true, because there's some shows, no dropping names, but there's some shows where I'm just like, yo, what the hell? Like, what are you guys talking about? Like,
I always wonder, like, what's the point? Like,
what is the point? Because I think some people really just have no plan. They hop in a room together and press record. Like, not dissing anybody who can do that and make it effective, but if you're doing that and you're all over the place and you're hard to follow, it's just like, nobody's going to listen to that.
Sure. Yeah. It's tough, too, because they have made it pretty easy for the average person to start nowadays. You could buy like the little the 2-mic interface, Best Buy or something, and a couple like Yeti mics, and then I have a podcast, and then next thing you know, it's like a year later, how's a podcast going? I haven't released anything in a while, but I'm working.
Gotta have a purpose with everything you do in life.
Have to have set goals, short term and long term.
I'm in the kitchen right now. I'm cooking. Don't worry. It's coming. So, how did you guys decide on that name, Introverted Intuition? Is
Jeff came up with it?
I came up with it. Honestly, like, I had seen those two words just somewhere on the internet at some point, and then I once I actually Googled what it was. It was just it was the name of an album I never heard. It's by an artist. Till this day, I've never heard it. It's by this artist by the name of Lance Sidewalker. He's on TDEs with Kendrick Lamar and J Rock and all them. But he's the only artist on TDE I never heard of, but I always liked the name Introverted Intuition. That's the name of his first album. And I really stole it, truthfully. It sounded great because like I am an introvert, and obviously if you know what the definition of intuition is, like if you're a thinker, an eccentric thinker, a creative thinker, it just all makes sense.
Okay. What about you, CR? Like you said, you're a musician. How do you make that jump from music to podcasting?
So like even with music, I feel like it's a personality thing, right?
Mhm.
So like I love people. I don't care what walk of life you've come from. I feel like we can all relate to being human. And so that's what brought me here is just like he was somebody that I worked with. We both, bonded over the hate over this job that we had, working in a warehouse. We hated that job. We're not gonna name drop, but yeah, we were working in a warehouse, and we were both talking about our aspirations, and we both had dreams. Like that was before I started my record label. It was before he started his podcast. We were literally just talking, and we were so amped up, and then we didn't talk for years after that job. Like I started my label, he started his podcast. He had a number of different co-hosts, and then he brought me back on as a guest, and I just really loved talking to people. You know what I'm saying? It just felt like another outlet. So it felt very natural for me, and I fell in love with it. I didn't even really listen to podcasts until he brought me on. Then
You
I
didn't
started
at
listening.
all?
No, I when I say I wasn't in the podcast world, it was just really emerging around the time he brought me on. It was just being the hot thing, like you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, so once he brought me on, I was just like, yo, this is a whole world of audio deliciousness that I have been missing out on. You know what I'm saying?
And he has a great personality too, so it's like we connected through that hate of our job. When we had those conversations of like creativity and art, like we just instantly had like chemistry. So I was like, I always thought in the back of my head of having him on in some form, either a guest or even co-host, obviously what it came to. But yeah, we were just, I think the bridge from our connection, friendship wise, to podcasting was just so seamless. And it just made sense.
Well, you guys seem like you complement one another. Like you're not the same person. You know, there's a lot of podcasts where it's like two of the same guys like doing the same thing. But you guys are, I don't want to say like a Martin and Lewis kind of thing, but different personality types, so it works. You know, you kind of cover the spectrum.
Yeah.
What about you, Ray? I never asked you like how. I know for us, we're a little older than you, but like podcasting, I'm talking out into the fucking abyss here. Like I feel like it's a slightly older person's game. Is there like young cats doing podcasts that you know of?
Young cats doing podcasts, not so much, but like.
What are the
I
kids
guess.
listening to these days?
That's a good
Yeah,
question. I
right?
never thought about that.
I mean, like podcast wise, I feel like nobody really would pay attention to that community, especially because it's filled with like more, I guess, aspiring later generations, maybe like 1990s and stuff, and people born in that age, and you're just like, you listen to this 2004, you're just like, I'm 16. These guys are pretty, like, yeah.
Well, I
these guys
wonder,
are
like,
gapped.
for this show, it's kind of meant to be like I describe it as like a multivitamin in podcast form, where it's supposed to be for the average guy. You come here, you get your laughs, you get your serious stuff. You get it covers all the spectrum, but it's for guys trying to be better guys. And one of the things I wanted to do was also kind of target like the younger dudes who maybe don't have, someone to talk to about that kind of shit. Or they're just kind of floating through and trying to figure it out on their own. Yeah. And it's tough because I feel like guys like your age, right? They don't really give a shit what. Like I'm an old man. I'm an old head now. Like I got grays. I enjoy a nice pair of socks. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I'm too old, and I feel like they're not gonna listen. Because you guys remember being in your teens. The old guys trying to tell you something, trying to give you a little knowledge, a little wisdom, and you're like, all right. I'm just gonna go do my thing. Like there's a girl over there. I'll see you later. Bye.
I understand that mentality, but I was actually never like that.
Me either.
I respect the wisdom and the information that the OGs have.
And that's what helped me get along
Right.
so quickly, because of the obstacles that I faced in my life. If it wasn't for the older men, like my uncles and even some of my friends' fathers, or you know what I'm saying, if it wasn't for them and just me having at least the common sense to listen, because everybody has, not everybody, some people don't have access to that, but if you do, a majority of people who do don't even listen.
Yeah.
I listen. You know what I'm saying? Even if it was something that was completely not right, at least I took a chance to hear them out. You know what I'm saying? But we got a lot of kids that just think older people know nothing. And it's just like, bro, that's gonna like totally hinder you. If you listen, you could be like a little baby genius. You know that, right? Like,
Well, here's the rub too, because I mean, I was born in '84, so I'm 35 now, and I'm finding that a lot of people like my parents' generation, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. You know?
Yeah.
I feel, especially, like I said, I'm Italian. You know, there's a lot of Italians that are of a certain age that think a certain way.
Traditional.
Yeah,
I get it.
They watch a certain news channel. You know what I mean? You know, they like a certain.
They have a routine.
Yeah, and any other information just does not get in. You know,
they have a fixed mindset.
Exactly, and you kind of look at those people and you're like, Jesus Christ! Like, I hope I don't end up like that. You know what I mean? So, to a certain extent, I understand. Like the young guys, maybe they see that. Like, why the fuck am I gonna listen to you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you guys believe anything you see on Facebook.
That's really true.
You don't question anything, and now I'm supposed to use that as like a model for how to be.
Right.
So I get it, and it's a double-edged sword.
It is.
It's part of the learning curve of growing up, like
especially in this day and age, because we live in an information era.
Right.
So it's like you're competing with information on the internet, you know. So it's hard to tell them what's right or wrong, because they're gonna go find something on the internet and be like, well, I don't know. This is what they said.
Yeah, well, that's the fucked up part too. Is that there's
so
so much information. It's like trying to drink out of a fire hose. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just like a fire hose of misinformation just pointed at everybody's forehead.
Yeah.
The problem is you don't really know how to like separate it from each other
Exactly.
because you don't have any wisdom or whatever, and you just really like you go and you try to get some and you really don't find it, and it's moments like different moments where people give you different sorts of advice, and you get it from like you said, different friends of your family or your dad or this and that, and you just manage to like try to put that all together in common sense.
Yeah.
Here's the thing you got to watch out for that I tell a lot of young guys: don't use your friends as like role models, and don't get your information from your friends, like your peers.
Yeah.
Because they also don't know what's going on.
You have a better shot using them as examples of what not to do. That's the better thing. Like, learn from the mistakes of your friends.
Every
like,
time you see them fuck up, be like, okay, noted, don't do
yes,
that.
I need to know why you did that. Like,
Yeah.
like analyze that shit. You know what I'm
was the
saying?
point?
What was the point? Like, I need to know.
And learn from the mistakes of adults. Like,
Of
Yeah,
course,
for
of
sure.
course.
I got the earliest lessons of like what I didn't want to be like was when I had the realization that my pops wasn't around. So when I was old enough to understand what that reality was for me, I was like, oh, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be a deadbeat. I don't want to be an absent father. So yeah, pay attention to everyone in life. You know, like
You can learn something from everybody. The bums, the successful people, the homeless people. Everybody has a story. That's something you can't underestimate a person's story. Everybody has a story.
Definitely.
And that's what makes me respect every person. I don't care what condition you're in. I'm gonna treat you like a human being because you got a story.
Everybody has some form of knowledge they can give you, whether, like you said, by showing you what not to do or actually telling you, giving you a piece of good advice.
Right.
So before we move on, I should have done this a little earlier, but how did you guys come up? Like, what was it? You said you were from Elizabeth, you're born in Elizabeth?
Yeah, I was born in Elizabeth and grew up in Roselle.
Okay.
Union County. I've been all over Union County.
All right.
Yeah.
And what kind of, like, you have like a typical childhood? Anything crazy happen to you?
Oh, yes. Can I go in?
Do it. Hit us.
Man, my life has been nothing but a fucking movie. I'm an only child, so no brothers or sisters. Both my parents suffer from chronic depression. My mom had postpartum depression. It turned into a major depressive episode and eventually became chronic depression. She's been on meds my entire life. I used to see my mom in the bathroom crying her eyes out, wouldn't understand why. I used to think I was bad luck, you know, because I didn't understand. And my dad was always at work, barely saw him. He was also a musician. I'm Haitian, so he did a genre called compa, which is Haitian jazz.
Okay.
And so
He played an instrument, or
he played a guitar and he was a singer. He was real crafty dude, worked. And growing up, there was a lot of infidelity in that relationship, and I didn't realize until I became an adult what was going on. All these, long absent days. My dad be gone for a couple of days, and
you remember all that stuff you saw as a kid, and now you're old enough to understand, right?
I'm old enough to, sometimes they say you can't connect the dots unless you're looking back. So I'm like, all right, shit, right? So all that really affected me. Being an only child, watching that stuff made me have a very close relationship with mental health. Both my parents are, my dad was a gambler. He had a lot of addictions. You know what I'm saying? He's definitely better now as a man, as a person. But during that time, he was going through so much. I mean, he's even attempted suicide a number of times before I hit 5th grade.
Damn.
You know what I'm saying? So like being an only child, being young and watching that shit, it's just like, you know, you kind of grow sensitive, but then you also grow cold because there's like nothing else can make me feel as bad as this.
Yeah. Nothing can shock you either.
Nothing can shock me. That's why people be like, sometimes they're like, yo, you're like never scared, or like, it's not that I'm not scared. It's just like I've already experienced fear like on the highest level, you know, being in 5th grade and your dad's getting the ambulance and they're pumping his stomach and you're like, what the fuck's going on?
Damn.
You know?
So how much would you say that that's kind of informed who or affected? How much would you say that's impacted who you are as a man today? Like how you came up? Like is that like a part of your identity now?
It's a big part of my identity. It's a big part. That's why I remember those things so vividly. Because of those things that I lived through, I don't take life for granted. I know what I'm susceptible to, genetically. You know, you inherit the sins of your father. You know, I like smoking. My dad's been smoking. I like smoking weed though.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this guy smokes cigarettes. I don't fuck with cigarettes. And I wrote papers. You know, shout out to Ross.
Sponsorship on the way.
Yeah, you know, but I'm definitely have the same libido as my dad. You know, definitely the same taste in women.
Well, how old are you now?
28.
Okay, you're in prime years.
Yeah.
Go live it up, you know.
Oh yeah, I'm still single, no kids, just getting money and just taking care of me right now.
No, you gotta make sure you're straight before you start worrying about
I know
doing all that.
And I had to
extra
learn
steps.
that because my uncles and my dad they didn't do it that way.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was the thing too. Like the older generations, they started having kids at like 19, 20.
Yeah,
Like that was the norm.
that was the norm.
And then they never found themselves as people.
As a person,
Exactly.
because as soon as you have a kid, you're giving to that
yeah,
person, that child.
like your life's over for a little while. Like
Yeah.
you're living for
I've heard.
somebody else if you're doing it
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a big thing. Like my parents, they had me when they were 22.
Hmm.
Dude, I couldn't.
Can't imagine. I
couldn't
can't even imagine.
having a kid at 22.
Right.
I'm 35. I'm gonna be 36 by the time my next son is born.
Hmm.
I can't imagine having a kid now, let alone at 22.
Yeah. Were you like
22?
I guess ready when you had your first kid?
So my son that you met in there, that's
Yeah.
my stepson. So
Gotcha.
technically, I got to skip a few stages,
Mhm.
and then the universe is like, no, let's go back to start.
Mm.
Let's do the full experience. So,
So
yeah,
this is your first.
this is my first baby.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congrats.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So Jeff, what about you? How did you come up?
I also grew up an only child. Like I mentioned earlier, I grew up without a father, so I was raised mostly by my grandmother, technically, because my mom, growing up in the 90s, to pay her way through school, she had to also work a lot,
Mm-hmm.
so she wasn't always present. And that developed a lot of depression and a lot of guilt because I felt like because my father had left, I felt like responsible for their separation. You know, growing up in the 90s, it's already hard enough to take care of a child. So especially a child you didn't plan for.
Yeah.
And I didn't know the trajectory of their relationship. I didn't know what they wanted for themselves individually and collectively. And I feel like me being born and me being in my mom's womb was the reason for their split. So I absorbed a lot of that guilt and a lot of that depression for the majority of my life. And that walked with me basically all the way until maybe a few years ago, where I really started to accept and understand that it wasn't my fault and that I'm not who my father was, and I'm not anything like him because I have nothing to compare him to because I don't know him.
You never met him?
No, I've only seen a picture. I know his name though, so I'm sure I could probably find him.
Yeah. That's something you ever thought about doing?
I still think about it a lot to this day. I've been thinking about it more recently, actually. But I don't know if I'm ready to commit to that idea yet, just for me, because I know I'm in a good space.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on how that interaction may go, it may turn out to be negative, and I don't need any type of negativity in my life. But outside of my depression and my dark days, I grew up relatively healthy, I guess, in a sense. Like the love and the support and the inspiration, the wisdom that my grandmother and my mom imparted into me was really valuable, and it really shaped me into the man I am today. I'm a very ambitious, fearless, confident, creative person because of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just my upbringing was really, the dark side of it was self-induced. The external side of my upbringing was very great.
That's often how it works too. Like
Right.
you don't have those external forces that are essentially bringing you down and filling you with negative thoughts. It all comes from within us, because there's a lot of kids that come up in like the best circumstances. They come from a nice family, they don't have to want for anything, and they struggle with depression their whole life.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how much of that could be genetic too, because I know, like, for me, like, I grew up right down the street in Bridgewater.
Mm.
So, my parents, they got married when they were 22, right before they had me. Of course, wasn't playing, and they split only 3 years later. So then, for a while, it was just me and my little sister and my mom, sharing one bed down South Jersey. And my mom got remarried, and then we had a family again. And I had my stepdad. That's him on the wall. Shout out to Ralphie B. That's my man. I got a lot of love for stepdads. I became a stepdad, so I gotta have a lot of love. But yeah, I mean, I had a nice life growing up. But then there was always that back and forth struggle with with having divorced parents, going back and forth. Kind of kids get caught in the middle, that kind of thing. And I had a lot of issues with that, and I still do to this day. But it's the same way. I can't blame really outside forces. Whatever struggles I had, it happened internally. Right. And that's one of the things I like about having a podcast is we could pick, what topics we want to talk about on any given day, and have people on where we can almost kind of work on ourselves at the same time we're having a constructive conversation with a guest. Yes. So do you guys find that you do that at all? Like you pick topics based on stuff that means something to you personally?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the times, right, when we have guests, we have a preset idea of what we want to talk about, and we always tie it back to the umbrella of mental health.
So would you say that's the overarching theme of the show, mental health?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
We always tie it back to that because everybody, deals with mental health in a different way. We both have dealt with it, dealing with our upbringing. So I feel like it's always important, and that's why we bring it up.
Yeah, and it's like what podcasting did for me was give me the confidence to talk about it and face it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it also shed the light of the feeling of thinking that no one else could relate. I would always be fearful of sharing my experience with depression because I felt like one, be a bother, and two, no one else could relate.
Mm-hmm.
But through podcasting, I've interacted with people who were guests or just fans of the show who reached out and said, yeah, I have been through that as well. I've experienced a similar feeling.
I learned what terminal uniqueness was from him.
Terminal uniqueness is when you are caught up in the idea, you think you're so unique and you think that no one else can relate to you. It is actually damaging to have that mindset.
Feel lonely and isolated.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I found the same thing. Like, that was what initially drew me to certain podcasts is that feeling of, like, I'm the only one going through this. And because there's so many shows out there, you could basically find a podcast about anything. So just hearing other people talk about the stuff that I was going through, thinking I was the only one, that meant so much to me. And that was the vibe I wanted to cultivate here. I wanted to do that for someone else. So I try to talk about a lot of different things, but anything for guys today. Guys today, I feel like we have limited resources when it comes to mental health, when it comes to just self-esteem stuff. Growing up when we came up, especially like being kids in the 90s, we're raised by people who have these, older ideas of what it means to be a man. They come from a different world, a different time. So a lot of the stuff that worked, that was necessary for guys to do, back in the day, it's outdated. And now, not only does it not serve us, but it leads to guys getting in trouble and basically wreaking havoc on the lives of people around them. Like that whole man up, don't tell people when you're having a problem.
Boys don't cry. That's like
all
the
that
most toxic shit, man.
And that's why there's so much domestic violence. And that's, what I'm saying? Because people are mismanaging their emotions. Like, the biggest reason why, I think a lot of people go on this rampage is always some kind of emotional imbalance at first, because that's the trigger to it all, right? That's what kind of triggers our behavior. There's even serial killers, if you hear like their upbringing, you're like, no wonder this guy's a fucking serial killer. His mom like left him in the closet for like 30 days and
some
like
people
fed him crackers.
Yeah, they didn't have a chance.
You know what I mean? It's like, I feel like it's important to understand the psychology of people, because then you can understand why they do what they do. Once you understand the way they're thinking, and you kind of have more of a, I don't want to say empathy, depending on the person.
Compassion. And but there's nothing wrong with that. Even if you're talking about like someone who did terrible things like a serial killer,
there's still empathy there.
Being able to understand how that happened to a person, how like this.
Because you weren't just born that way.
No.
You weren't just like, I'm gonna kill 1 million women.
Well, I mean, I guess maybe that is open to debate, like whether or not it's nature versus nurture.
That's true.
You know
Never
what I
know.
mean? Because there's a lot of people that go through horrible, awful stuff in their life and don't turn out to be serial killers.
That's
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's true.
So it might be a bit of both.
I feel like we all got a choice on perception, though. You know what I'm saying? That's
Mhm.
one thing, right? You can't control the way people perceive things.
Because maybe that person didn't kill someone, they may be treating their girlfriends or their friends and the people in their life toxically.
They
you
could
know?
be emotional,
Emotionally
sadistic.
detached.
Yeah,
You
know
they're
what?
emotionally sadistic, and they could be doing a lot of other damaging things to people psychologically.
That's how actually. It's funny. I just wrote about. I'm sorry. You want to move on to your next question?
No.
Okay,
Go ahead.
I'm writing a book. My book's done, but I wrote about this, and I was that type of person. I feel like I kind of took.
The serial killer?
No.
I'm like,
My toxicity.
This isn't my house. I don't really live here.
My toxicity with women and how I treated them and how like I may have manipulated them in certain times to get
Mhm.
maybe what I wanted, not in like a creepy, rapey way or anything like that,
Yeah.
but just was a branch off of my lack of awareness and my lack of understanding of myself and lack of acknowledgement of my past and who I am. So I had to really analyze myself and go deep down and figure out what was really wrong with me and why I was like this, why these women, multiple women who didn't know each other, were repeating the same thing about me.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to really look within to find out why this was happening in order to grow up.
I feel like a lot of people don't take the time to reflect and be self-aware like that. Because how many times do you see these guys? This is what girlfriend number 78, and it's like, these women are all crazy. You know what I mean?
they
Yeah.
never,
I don't think it. There's a
They
common
don't-
denominator
yeah.
there, and I don't think it's them.
they're not building any insight.
Yeah, it's like not a lot of people actually take the time to do that. So that's big.
It
Like
is
not
big.
everybody is capable of doing that even.
Self-awareness should not be underestimated. I give people so much props when you're toxic and you admit that you're toxic. That's so much better than somebody who's toxic and then thinks they're not. They
Yeah.
think they're great for everybody.
I just thought I was super charming, but it's like, no, like I was kind of using that to my advantage and
Well, like I've heard you talk about this on your show before.
oh,
Like,
shit.
could you kind of elaborate a little bit if you're comfortable talking about that? Like,
I think there's a thin line. I think being charming and being manipulative are synonymous. I feel like we put that negative connotation on manipulation because it's
Mhm.
rightly so. There is a negative connotation to that word. But I feel where it kind of gets blurry is when the charm comes in. I feel sometimes people get wrapped up in someone's persona and their confidence, their bravado, and then they'll be willing to do anything for them.
Mhm.
But it's like then they'll cast the blame when things go maybe not how they wanted or maybe not how they expected. But it's like I was just being me, and you fell for me, and we ended up this way.
Mhm.
So I can see how my charm can be labeled as manipulation at times, but it's not intentional because I'm just being me.
And I was just gonna say, I think the difference between manipulation and charm is all contingent on intention.
Right.
Right.
True. But I mean, I would think if they're considering it manipulation, that would kind of imply that you're not the same person you were in the beginning. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
are you? I mean,
There's
you're
some
not-
type of deceit with manipulation.
exactly like.
Right. I've never purposely done anything to hurt anyone. It's
Mhm.
just maybe my behavior may end up leading us that way where you feel hurt, maybe because comfort levels
Mhm.
or whatever. But my intention is never to hurt. It's just to be me, and how you receive me is what it is.
Yeah.
Mm.
I don't know. The one thing I've learned since being married is that we as guys, I don't know. I think this goes back to being a kid
Mm.
because it's like if we know something they're gonna say is gonna make our lady upset, we'll do whatever we can to avoid it. Like not even necessarily straight up lie, but just like dance around the subject
Yeah.
and because we don't want them to be mad at
No.
us. I mean,
No.
if you really actually give a shit about the person,
Yeah.
you don't want to disappoint them. You don't want to let them down. You don't want them to think less of you. So a lot of times we try to avoid this stuff, and it always comes around and bites us in the ass. You know what I mean? And we
And
try,
then ends up being worse than if you would have just
exactly.
yeah.
We're sitting there. Why didn't I just say it and just take my talking to in the beginning?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, do you guys find that like we just kind of avoid that stuff?
I think that's a very common thing amongst males because we're more solution based and we don't really want to argue. You know what
we
I'm
don't want to
saying?
start a problem.
Convenience.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we like things easy.
Yeah.
You know, we want to, you know what I'm saying? Let's watch a football game, eat some wings. Let's just chill the fuck out.
Well, it can be as simple as something like this. Like your wife comes in, baby, why do you put the trash can right next to the bed? Well, because I don't want to have to throw it all the way across the room. Like, who do you think I am, El Duque here? Like, I put it right here. I don't miss. Now the room is clean. It's like, yeah, but now you have the trash can right here.
But it's only
You
paper.
definitely had that conversation in real life.
Not that one particularly,
Oh.
but stuff like that. I'm like, listen, this is the easy, effective way. I'm trying to streamline this shit.
Right. The way you said that, I could put the passion in that
Yeah.
one.
Well, no, I mean, when it comes to household stuff, at least, I don't want to make extra steps for myself.
Right.
Like, for instance, in there, like, you came out looking for a towel.
Yeah.
People, why don't we just leave a towel in the bathroom? So people don't feel awkward having to walk out with wet hands, you know, like they just pissed themselves. Like, that's not cool. That's how you want your guests to feel?
Right,
But
right.
we don't have, you can't have a nice towel. And, you know what? Okay, whatever. I just live here.
Yeah,
What do I know?
Yeah,
Sorry,
towel in the
Sorry to
bathroom.
put my wife on blast. I might get myself in trouble now.
Huh?
She's
So,
gonna be like, "Well, babe, how'd the episode go?"
if you learn anything from this, just be honest in the beginning. It is going to
Yeah.
save yourself a lot of trouble.
Oh,
No,
man.
man.
A lot of
just,
trouble, a
like,
lot of heartache.
starting. It's especially with like stuff at like school
Mm.
and being in Miami. Everybody's just like it's just a bunch of big egos walking around. It's like
Well, no, Miami. This is something I've learned. I did an episode a while ago with a dude from Miami. Shout out to Nick. We talked about Miami. Miami, it's almost like, think about in the wild, like a great white shark is like a super predator, like an apex predator.
Mhm.
Okay, and it evolved to be that way. But in Miami, you have an entire community of nothing but apex predators.
Wow.
Everybody's got the gym all the time. Everybody's ripped with the six-pack. All the girls with the fake tits and the fake ass
Everything.
and the plastic surgery. Everybody's
Instagram.
hyper-competitive.
Really?
Exactly. Everybody's on that level. So imagine a whole society of people like that. It's nothing but egos, nothing but, posing for Instagram. It's crazy. It's wild.
When I was in Miami, I just saw beer bellies and fucking spray tans. and
That's
shit.
what- Yeah.
Miami's a big city.
Yeah, very big.
Miami's
but
a
That
big
must
city.
be
I didn't
so
see that.
toxic. I never been to Miami yet.
Well, also, too, with Miami, like, my wife is Cuban. Like, South Florida is essentially just North Cuba.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Am I lying?
No, yeah,
I gotta go out there.
You know?
That's perfect.
Gotta go.
But
Hell
with,
yeah.
with a lot of Hispanic cultures too, there's that machista, that macho man, like
Mhm.
that stereotypical idea of what masculinity is like.
Mhm.
Imagine that everywhere.
People just like, for example, around middle school, you start getting like, your phone, you start understanding stuff. You're like, oh, I want to talk to the high school kids. These people seem cool, and then you start just like mixing into the groups, and you're like, oh no, who are these people? Like, what is this?
What did I
Why
do
are
to
you acting
myself?
like this? And then you get into like that whole other thing of like social media, for example, and it's just worse. Like people are just like making these big, this is who I am, and then you meet them in real life, and it's like like you said, there's a bunch of beer bellies and sandals everywhere. It's like,
Did you feel like an outcast because you were around so many different people that you weren't like?
I mean, I guess definitely with the whole moving thing, you move from new school to new school, and you see a lot of like new things, and you're just like, well, you know what is this? Like, you go to this school, it's in the same county or whatever, and people are acting different. People are acting like for example, my normal friend group would be like a bunch of nerds. I play games all day.
Competitive
this and
gamer. This
that.
kid is legit.
That's where the money is.
Yeah, phew, everywhere. But
Fingers
just, like,
crossed. Come on.
Right, make it
Gotta get those
happen.
tournaments.
Be a
Yes.
manager.
you go like you start like learning about different like how people think, for example, and how people think in that age, and you start running into just a bunch of big egos, and this guy acts like this, so I want to act like him and follow in his steps, and you watch that with like good common sense and like places and people you've heard, and you're just like, oh, this is bad, like this is a bad thing, like why are they doing this? Like for what? Like what's the point?
You're
And
gonna see, bro. Being up here, it's a different world.
Do you feel like it was superficial, like even more superficial because it was Miami?
I partially. I mean, definitely because of the Cuban personality everywhere, and it's just like a bunch of Cubans challenging each other left and right. And so, like you run into either the chill, normal nerd people, whatever, they talk to each other within each other, and then you like outcast yourself into other groups, and you'll see like people who definitely think they're popular and they go by that. And then you see like the Cuban kids, and they're just like beefing with each other all the time, and everybody's
Tough
going
chess,
crazy.
24/7.
Yeah, you can't really walk around without middle school to high school is a big different thing in Florida because in middle school there's people trying you all the time and like
Mm.
left and right fights, and you wake up and you're eating a bowl of cereal and you turn to your left and somebody's dying because somebody's getting punched into the ground. And then another morning you just be like, somebody's trying you and somebody wants to fight you and you're just like, come on, like I just want to go to class. I'm tired. I don't even want to. I don't even want to wake up for this today. Like you're wasting my time right
Can we fight on Smash Bros? Like
now. For real, you gonna give me some money for this? Come on.
So, back to where we were. Let me ask you guys this: do you feel like in the course of being on the show and hosting the show, talking to the people that you talk to, that you've grown as people? Like have you gleaned information, gleaned wisdom off these interviews you've done and the conversations you've had?
Man.
Touch that first, Jeff.
Absolutely, yo. Like, I've become more like I've been naturally introverted my entire life, but I've been able to tap in and control my extroverted side through podcasting. I'm the most I like to talk when I'm comfortable, but podcasting has allowed me to adjust that uncomfortable side of communication consistently, and I'm able to speak in any room I enter, no matter what, no matter who's in the room, no matter how many hot chicks, no matter how many fucking awkward ego driven dudes are in there. Podcasting has changed me completely communication wise, and just emotionally, spiritually, it just makes me feel good. I found my purpose through podcasting.
Let's say, because you describe yourself as an introvert. That's not what you would think of when you're talking about a talk show host, essentially. Like someone who's an introvert, just basically talking.
I think that's a miscommunication, though.
Yeah.
It's like people think that introverts are just these people who just don't like to talk or just refuse to. But it's like, I view introverts as people who move with their own comfort, who communicate with their own comfort. You know? So it's just like, you could be introverted and have a podcast. And I feel like I'm one of the first people to set that wave. Trendsetter, I guess, in a sense, right? But I'll let you answer.
Definitely, like, I'm more of an ambivert. I'm extroverted, but I have a limit where after I'm done interacting with a whole bunch of people, I need to be in a corner by myself. You know,
Got to go recharge the batteries.
I have to recharge. Definitely an ambivert, but this whole journey being a podcaster has just made me so much more intuitive with myself, because along with being in podcasting, I started my journey with therapy, one-on-one therapy, psychotherapy, and that combined with podcasting has made me such more of a healthier person mentally. I really have evolved spiritually, mentally, and now I'm starting to physically, because I stopped eating meat. I'm in the gym every day. Like, I've just been on this journey of self improvement, and podcasting just helped facilitate that. It's made me really connect with different people. I was already a conversationalist, but podcasting just makes me love people more. Love talking. I love listening. Like, I listen to every word and sound being uttered out of another person's mouth. Like, I'm so meticulous to words because of I was already in love with words, but podcasting just brought it more in just more out. You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry, guys. The wine is hitting now.
No.
It's like more out. Yeah.
I found the same thing too. Like, you never realize how much you can enjoy a good conversation with people. Even if it's like this, like people you're meeting for the first time,
Yes.
like just having a good one, like a conversation, just letting the walls like fall down, just being honest, like be who you are.
Yes.
It's something very cathartic about
Yes.
it, you know?
It is.
And especially when I mean, I would describe myself kind of, I guess I'd be like an ambivert, because I like to not talk to people if I can, but I'm good. I'm fine if I have to, you know what I mean? And with this, I find it like, oh yeah, like there's a reason that we talk to people, because there's so much to be gained from it.
Yes.
You know, it can fill you up, and of course sometimes, yeah, you need to go into a room by yourself and lock the door and just not talk to anybody for a little bit. But that's all part of it. That's fine. That's good. Like, as long as you can sit there and have that conversation and just, I don't say like vibe with people, but you know what I mean? There's definitely if we were doing this on Zoom right now, it wouldn't be the same. We don't. There's no energy transmission.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I mean, I'm sure that anybody listening or watching, you could tell, like, there's a big difference in the vibe of the show when I have people here and when we're just talking to the computer.
It's way more comfortable.
Everything,
Absolutely.
like everything about it. Even like with the delay on Zoom, you just like, say a joke, 3 minutes later, everybody's just like, "Ha!" Like, yeah, that's fun.
Well, that's been happening a lot lately, and you guys are lucky that you actually go to a legit studio. You don't have to worry about the editing and all that stuff. Like, I'm glad I have Ray here now because he's working the computer for me. There's nothing more distracting than having to look to make sure it didn't stop recording. You know, I just had a couple weeks ago. I had a total meltdown of all my equipment. Like everything failed on me within a 24-hour period. Like I lost all this stuff, the footage I had on the camera, the recordings just wouldn't work. Like I couldn't get it, and it was all on Zoom too. So the guy's sitting there waiting for me. I'm like, dude, I'm sorry, I'll be right with you. He's like, no, that's all right. Seriously, don't worry about it. And he was super nice, and I'm just like having a complete meltdown.
I used to do that. Like I used to record off my laptop before I went to the studio. It was super frustrating, super annoying. And unfortunately, I think that's where the life is maybe heading back to soon with lockdowns and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So virtual podcasting may be a thing again, unfortunately. But
I mean, at least we have that capability too.
oh yeah,
I mean, that's huge. And you can, depending on how you work it, you can turn it to a positive. Because like I've been able to get some guests on here that I would never be able to get in studio. You know, just like reaching out to people, especially during a lockdown. Like you want to talk to, say, like a comedian. Well, guess what? They're not working that much right now. So as long as you're like cool about it, a lot of guys have been very generous and like, yeah, listen, I'll come talk to you for an hour, no big deal. So I was like, that's fucking awesome. Shout out to Corey Ryan Forrester, Drew Morgan, and Dion Curry, because they all came on and they don't know me from Adam. They could. Like, who the fuck
you
is
must
this
have
guy?
a fire pitch email.
I don't know, man. I don't even remember what I say, but they were all really cool about it, man. And I think the timing was right because that was before people figured out like a way to like do comedy. You know, during the pandemic, it was before they started doing like the drive-in shows and
Right.
all these venues had stuff outdoors. So a lot of these guys were just sitting there with like nothing to do, and some of them were like, "Yeah, shit, I'd love to. I have nothing else going on." Like that sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
So I was really happy with that. Just don't pause anything yet. I know you guys said you wanted to use all the recording. Do you have any questions? Do you want to record any kind of like intro or bits that you can use for your end? Because I could send you the whole thing, and you could just cut up what you need. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna do. Just cut up like some clips that we could post on our own socials.
But do you want to record like an intro or anything so you could use it for your stream so it doesn't look like it's just like only mine? You know what I mean?
No, I think I'm cool. I mean, yeah, I think we'd be good.
All right. Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm loving the flow.
Yeah,
All
I just like to have clips just to post on social just to promote it as much as possible. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
It
just
works for
clips
me.
of what we're talking about. Yeah, everything's candid, so we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to keep this one kind of like relaxed, just talking
Yeah.
about like being a content creator and the stuff that we choose to talk about, because I feel like that, you know, it's easy to get somebody on like a good flow. You know, you kind of talk about something you're passionate about. Like when you guys do the podcast, like how much of it, like because you said you've been doing it for 3 years now, right?
Yeah, going on 4 next year.
Like how much of it is like a grind versus a labor of love? You know, like because it is a lot of work.
So the grind is actually hitting me now, going into the new year now, just because we need to level up. We have to level up our visuals, our audio, our content, and with that requires money. It's kind of hard to like put money aside when you have bills, especially during the pandemic. Like I have a job, of course. We have merch that sells relatively well, but not as well as we would like yet. So the money part is really hard because we have to step up we have to produce our podcast even better to get to where we want to go, where we will be. And that's like the hardest part of the grind is like making sure we have the funds to do that, the people available, and just the motivation to do that. Like getting the guests, that's kind of hard too.
It's very hard.
Yeah, because like certain guests, like I really would love to have on, but it's like either they don't respond or they're not interested or whatever. So that part of the grind I've accepted, but like in terms of like increasing the production value of our show and having the funds to do it, that's been the most frustrating, difficult part. We're actually probably gonna talk about that shit after we leave here because we got to talk about all that stuff. But that's been the hardest part about the grind. The podcast, doing the podcast itself, is so easy at this point. It's second nature. I could do this in my sleep.
Yeah, the labor of love comes from creating the content itself,
Right.
right? But the logistics behind the production, that's the grind for me. You know what he just said, like, you know, coming up with a budget that works, trying to figure out how to make it profitable. You know what I'm saying? Because if we're gonna be, you know, trying to invest this much money in production, it only makes sense that we're making a profit off of it.
Absolutely.
You know, so we're trying to figure out the recipe, You know, we've got the flavor. You know, people want to eat, but we're trying to figure out how to sell the plates.
And we have merch available, teespring.com/Introverted Intuition if you want your own Introverted Intuition merch.
I'm gonna raise my hand right here so I know where to find this part on the video when I go back because I'm gonna put a link under the video right there.
I
so
don't think that's
find.
actually the actual link. I'm gonna send it to you, but
Okay.
teespring.com. Type in Introverted Intuition.
Yeah, forget about this. We'll do it at the end of the show, so you know with the official link.
Yeah.
All right. So, what do you guys have an approach, like a goal to as of? All right, let me try that again. How do you guys plan on standing out in podcasting? Because it's such a crowded field. You know, there's so many people. Anybody out there can do it, whether it's just for 10 shows or 1,000 shows. Like, what's your approach as far as standing out? Like, how do you guys set yourselves apart from the average Joe?
I want to start by saying consistency. Consistency. I don't give a damn if you like shining shoes for a living. Right? If you shine shoes longer than every other shoe shiner, you're gonna be known as like one of the top shoe shiners in the city.
Spit Shine Tommy.
Yeah,
look at your fucking shine box.
Right, Tommy's back. You know what I'm saying?
There he is, right there. Looks like somebody we know.
You know what I'm saying? So like that's why I say consistency makes us stand out the most, because even through the pandemic, when other shows weren't putting content out, we had guests.
Talk about it.
We had some of the biggest guests of ours, like of the year.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We had shout out to Mandy from Horrible Decisions. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like so like that was a big look, and it happened during the pandemic. Consistency makes people respect the craft.
Yeah.
And it makes people have some type of emotional attachment, because through consistency there's resilience, there is struggle, and everybody can relate to struggle. Right? And we're very, very vocal about our struggles on the show. Our struggles for paying for production. This is real fucking life. You know what I'm saying? We have to keep it real, because that's what people want. And I think that consistency is like one of the biggest things that will make us stand out.
And relatability. And as well, that paired
Right
with
there.
our transparency.
Yeah.
We have no fear about just expressing our transparency and being who we are at our cores, and
Totally honest.
and telling you when things aren't great.
Mm-hmm.
On one episode, our second most played episode on YouTube, and probably audio wise too, I cried. I had a whole mental breakdown on the show, live on the show, and that was like one of our most viewed episodes yet, because of that honesty that I wasn't afraid to express. So, and relatability is people just understand not only the mental health, but just like what it is, especially the entrepreneurs, the grind, the struggle, the ups and downs. So
Everybody's going through their own grind. That's obviously that's relatable.
yeah, outside of entrepreneurship, just in life in general, and we express that with no fear, so people relate and they understand, and they really fuck with us because we are who we are, no matter the setting.
Yeah, the authenticity, it shines through, and the lack of it shines through just as strong too.
Yes.
So that's what people can tell. You could be some famous actor. I'm going to start a podcast. I already have 10,000 listeners per episode because people know who I am. But people are going to realize real quick whether or not you're being your authentic self.
Or if you're just acting.
And the cream's going to rise to the top.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Got really excited, but like he said, like we've had like some of our biggest guests, and it's like we're not the biggest podcast, but we see the influence we're making. We got certain podcasts back in the studio because we were there in the height of the pandemic.
We've inspired people. There's been shows who've gotten ideas from us, inspired ideas from us that are bigger shows than us.
And
that
stolen.
You know what I'm saying? He said stolen.
No,
But-
I'm so serious.
But you know what? I look at it as a compliment, because I know we're brilliant. You know what I'm saying? And I don't mean that in a braggadocious way. I mean we're brilliant in the essence of being ourselves. We're mastering the art of being ourselves. That's what this is. This is the journey of mastering the art of being ourselves. And that's just as real as it gets. People say all the time how they fuck with the fact that I just am myself in every room. Podcasting has a big part of that. I've learned to be comfortable in my own skin. I'm me anywhere, anywhere. I don't care who I'm talking to. I love being myself. And the people who can accept that are the ones I gravitate towards. Those are the realest people. And they happen to be extremely Italian lately.
Yeah,
I'm telling you.
my paisanos.
The last couple of weeks, I've had a Lyft driver who was Italian. I had a passenger was. I'm just saying, man. I had a lot of people who.
No, it's an Italian thing. Like, we like to be good hosts.
Yeah, and
know,
you guys
go
are
to
just.
you go to an Italian person's house. If you don't eat the food, they feel like they failed as a host.
Yo,
What's the matter? You don't like it?
when you asked what I wanted like to have for the podcast tonight, whether it be water or something, like I didn't respond at first because like, yo, that was so nice.
That
Like,
was so nice.
Listen, I try you.
And
I appreciate you. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Listen, I appreciate you guys coming all the way out here. You know,
Of course.
not everybody
Yes.
feels
Ain't
like
far.
going out on a Sunday night to some stranger's house. You know what I mean? Talk about their feelings and shit. So look, I try to take care of people here. You know, Ray, I'm sorry you're not of age yet, and this is on video, so I don't want to incriminate myself. Otherwise, you know,
He's
maybe.
smart.
Be an alcoholic on my own
Yeah.
time, you know.
He's gonna be an
God for-
alcoholic
God
on my
forbid
own
your mother
time.
watches this. She's gonna come knife me in my sleep.
High school in Miami.
Yeah.
They're drinking by 16.
Ooh, there's so much stuff you'll be doing by 16 if you stay in Miami, man. It's
Listen.
terrible out there sometimes.
We were all 16 once, so I don't think it's just Miami.
I mean, Miami gives you all of the above. Would you say if you're really
That's
like
true.
if
You
you're
get
one of those?
you getting that old
The A1.
that old booger sugar straight from the source down there,
Yeah,
the
no,
A1.
I've heard some shit before. Like,
hanging out with them cocaine cowboys.
Shit.
But so now let me ask you this: on your show, how do you guys address like divisive topics? Because I know, especially this year, politics has been a big thing. Like, do you guys try to steer clear of certain things, or do you just let it all go? Like, whatever comes out is what it is.
No filter.
No filter. I want to get into more divisive topics next year.
Mhm.
I kind of steered clear of like pop culture and current events just because everyone's doing it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like what makes my opinion on the topic isn't. It can shift gears, but in the grand scheme of it, it's not going to really matter.
Mm-hmm.
But on the flip side of that, I do enjoy talking about different things. I have an opinion on everything.
Yes.
I have an interest in everything, so I will talk about it and research it. Even when I don't research, I'll talk about it too. But yeah, we don't shy away from talking about shit.
Okay.
We love awkward conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talk
Yeah.
about shit people don't want to say. Like, we don't care. Like, we'll this guy especially, like, yo, he likes to stir the pot. This guy, we call him the petty podcaster because he likes to stir the pot. Yo, he'll bring up some shit from like like a year ago that you said that he never had the opportunity to ask you about, and he'll ask you on air, like right now, like, what's up?
You remember 6 episodes ago you were talking about you accidentally farted and you shit yourself? Like, let's
Yeah.
talk about that. You know?
Yeah, because it's like, why not talk about it? I don't know. But that has been a double-edged sword because I've talked about like my past relationships or current relationships, and those text messages are not pretty.
You see, I have the same. When it comes to like personal stuff,
Yeah.
I've talked about a lot of stuff. Talked
Yeah.
about like relationships with my parents.
Yeah.
You know, the growing up, the way I felt, the reason I resent certain people,
Mm.
and it's all fine and well until that person feels a way about what you
Mm.
said. So when it comes to like topics in the world and culture and politics and stuff like that, like that's one thing we could talk about that, fine. But when it comes to talking about people, I try to be real careful about
I
that,
agree with
especially
that.
when it comes to loved ones like family and stuff.
Yeah, I never use names, but they somehow always know it's them.
Yeah, well, that's tough.
Yeah, I don't
get,
drop
you want to get
names.
married and have just one woman because I'm stressed.
But even that, bro. I mean, listen, I don't want her to be upset with me.
Yeah.
That's the last thing I need. Let me tell you. So I got to be very careful.
I go by this rule. I don't say anything on air that I would have a problem saying to your face.
Mm.
And if I stick to that rule, I have no fears, right? Because I know that a majority of the stuff that I say, I'm not having no problem saying it to that person. You know what I'm saying? But if it's something that I wouldn't even say to that person, you best believe that it's gonna stay on the hush hush. You know, but that's just my rule of thumb. So if I say anything on the air, it's because I've already told that person, or I have no problem saying it to that person.
Well, wait till the next episode because I got mad questions for you.
Oh,
You may have to say some personal stuff.
okay.
What's the matter? He's been acting a little suspect lately.
I just got questions for this guy, man.
I don't know.
I got questions.
I'm an open
He's
book.
got a little booze in him right now. You might want to ask him now. He'd get away with a lot of shit.
It's your show. I don't want to. I'm trying not to like get in the mold of my podcast host and like
Bro.
ask questions.
That's
'Cause
why.
I wanna
That's why
control.
I invited you guys
I'm
because I love
curious.
having other podcasters here. Because that way it makes my life a little easier. I'm not like prying stuff out of people. Like, oh, you know. So how did you feel about this? Oh, I felt fine. You know, like I got people who can talk. Go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
CR.
Jeff.
Did you or did you not just come back from Miami recently
I was not in Miami.
or Florida?
I was in Florida.
What was your intention for going down there outside of a vacation?
I went there to be entertained by a lady friend.
A specific lady friend, or
Yes, a
just
specific lady
okay.
friend who invited me.
Oh, she invited you.
She invited me
Okay.
to her house.
And what happened? Or what didn't happen?
Well, Jeff, she took me to a spa. She paid for the spa day. It was exquisite.
It was lovely.
It was a 60-minute massage. Then she took me to dinner. Then the next day, she also cooked dinner. Amazing.
What'd she make?
She made salmon with some spinach, some rice. It was really delicious.
All right.
You know, but I was under the impression that this whole trip had a particular goal, a intimate goal.
Yeah?
Yeah. And when I brought it up to her, repeatedly,
Keep in mind the camera's
Oh,
camera's seeing.
I'm sorry, repeatedly, it just seemed that it frustrated her because she didn't have those expectations. She thought I came and took 2 flights to Florida to just hang out, and
It's a tough one.
yeah,
It's a tough one. Listen, my wife that you met in there, she lived in Miami when we first met. We met in New Orleans, and we started doing a long distance relationship for 2 years. So I flew back and forth every 3 weeks for 2 straight years. Like, it's not easy. Now, is this somebody that you know well? Like somebody you've already got like a little established thing with?
nah, we met on
I
Instagram.
knew it.
All right.
She's cool though, and we've been talking like I guess almost a year. It was our first time meeting in person, but we've definitely expressed interest in each other sexually. Like, we're grown, we're almost 30. Come on,
She's one of those that's like all talk.
yeah. Like, and she made a lot of subliminal posts on her story on Instagram suggesting, some explicit content was gonna be going down. Like, oh, he's gonna fall in love after he gets this WAP. Like, you're posting that before I'm coming out there. Like, what do you? Of course, I'm gonna what I'm saying, have certain expectations. It was this whole thing. Because she felt that she can't find a man that she could just be a heterosexual man that she could just be friends with, right? But here's the thing. I never hid my sexual intentions. I've been flirting with you.
Mm-hmm.
I've been literally gripping your butt, like all types of shit since I've been here. Like, you can't
And
be.
she was down
She
for all
was
that.
fucking giggling and
You
laughing.
think you came on too strong at any points? And you may have fumbled
Possibly.
the ball yourself?
I think possibly because it's too strong for her taste. She's very conservative. I have to think context. Right? She's from Georgia, but she was living in Florida. You know what I'm saying? So she's used to taking things slow. I'm born and raised in Jersey. All right, let's just be honest. Certain situations.
You fuck on the first date.
I'm just saying,
It happens.
we're dropping the jaws at the end of the night. That's just what I'm used to.
Well, see, that's the thing. That's the tough part for us is that we can go in there with hopes, but as far as legit like hard expectations, that's a whole nother story. If a woman changes her mind halfway through the night, then
It is what it is.
it is what it is.
You have to
It's hard.
accept it.
It sucks that you couldn't just go home like you were in Florida.
Yeah.
That's hard.
I mean, look, the first night wasn't that bad because she said, in her words, "Not right now." So I'm thinking, okay, maybe that means tomorrow. So
Get warmed up.
yeah. So I'm thinking, I still had hopes the next day, but then the second time is when it got deep. Yeah. But
So, the story I created in my head about that situation was not like that at all.
All right, what was your version?
You're working for the CIA and shit.
Nah, I just thought like you had just because I know this guy.
Okay.
Like I feel like he kind of falls for girls kind of quickly. Like he gets in like I think it just happens naturally because I'm kind of like this too. Like where you just vibe with someone so easily, you just want to be with them. You want to see where it can go.
Absolutely.
So I thought this guy was talking to her for a week. He was like, "I'm booking a flight. I want to be with you," like type shit. Like, but yeah, I didn't know they talked for a year. So I just needed some clarity on that. We can get back to the regular
that's
schedule
hilarious.
programming, but I just need some clarity on
I've had the same thing happen. I've driven out of state for a girl that I just met, and then driven home disappointed. You know what I mean? Like it happens to the best of us.
It is what it is. It's a lesson learned.
I'm not judging.
Hey, I don't give a damn if you do. All right, she was
I'm
hot.
ju-
I'm judging,
Combative.
and I feel like we're on a much more similar level because like, shit happened to me before too.
Hell yeah,
So
it
only I didn't
happens.
take a flight. I had to drive.
I took 2
That
flights.
sounds worse.
It
I
was
took-
because it was
yeah.
a long ass
Yeah.
drive.
It wasn't. I mean, I guess putting myself in there, it wasn't as bad for me because it does go down too as a teenager. I guess. I mean, you wouldn't call these relationships serious or whatever,
Right.
but you take okay. I got most of this birthday money or whatever, and I'm just like, oh, okay, this is good, a little luxury for myself. So you take a $23 Uber to some weird date, go to a national park. It's on top of a hill. You got a great view. First time in New Jersey on a date, and you're just like, damn, like look at this view. This is crazy. This is gonna be a good first date. So it goes down, goes great, good first day, and then you just kind of falling off next couple days, and you're just thinking like, man, what?
What did I
Like, what
do?
the fuck just
happened?
happened? I had a great date, national park, this and that. Like, and you have a good time. You come out of that just thinking to yourself all day. You're just like sitting there, maybe playing or something. You're just like, man, all that good stuff for what? Like, what did I do? What did I actually accomplish out of
Like,
this?
was it that time I licked my finger instead of using the bathroom?
Yeah, yeah.
What
Well,
was it?
that's the hard part I've found is that unless like if something goes wrong with a girl, like
Yeah.
it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Unless she's giving you like a specific reason, like listen, you did this, like, I don't like that at all. It's a deal breaker for me. Unless you get that, a lot of times it's just guesswork on our part. You know what I mean? Like,
I totally.
and a lot of
agree.
girls they have good intentions. They don't want to hurt your feelings. They think, no, he's a nice guy. I just don't feel that way about him. But in their mind, they feel like you can't just come out and say that to somebody, right?
Right.
Like, no. You're a great guy. You're awesome. Like it's just I'm not in the right place right now, and that leaves you thinking it's like bullshit.
Yeah, you
No
stuck in
way.
the Twilight Zone.
Yeah, like what did really? What did I do? What did I do?
Just
You don't like the
tell
way I dress? It's the
tell
beard, right? It's the beard.
like,
And then you start second guessing everything you do, and it's like a vicious cycle.
Yeah, no, I found that if you just take away like, what happened? What'd you guys do? Like if I take away from that, hey, good view, I had a good day, pretty good experience, I guess. Teaches me a little bit of something, and I really just I take that more out of than I take like what did I do wrong.
yeah.
And so maybe just more focus on like what did I do today more than what's my problem, like why is she not wanting to be with me anymore, more like just hey, that was a pretty good day, I did
That's
some
how I
stuff.
had to view it because I was like, look, fuck it. I got a 60-minute massage. I got 3 free meals. Holla. And it is what it is. But nah, yeah, no, still disappointed.
Listen, sometimes you just got to look at like, hey, it was fun. I had the massage. I got some good meals. I got to see something different. Get out of
That's
town.
true. I did go sightseeing, and I
Even-
did enjoy that.
Listen, even a bad date can still end up being a good memory. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You
definitely.
can always take something positive away from
Yeah.
it.
I,
You get-
sorry,
No, I was just saying, it's got to go real bad to
Yeah.
not get anything positive
Nah,
out of it.
yeah, I get.
Like you got to like shit yourself in the restaurant or something. Like
My most recent, because I got a relationship out of a relationship in July, so my experience dating recently has it's been one of two things: just real fast, just having sex, or it's just like I can't connect with these girls on a communicative level.
Mm.
I just get so bored, and it's just like you don't feel me in any way outside of like
Yeah.
a physical connection. And like, granted, I got a relationship in July, but I like to have someone. I like the idea of love. I love love. I love the idea of a relationship. So I would like to move into one of those eventually. But recently dating, it's just been. I mean, we're transferring into a world where like communication is going to be really important, especially with like lockdowns and stuff like that. So like having these bad experiences communication wise with these women, it's just been like stressful,
And draining.
it's
draining.
hard.
It's a waste of time. Like
And
But no, you don't look at it as wasted time because I feel like you learn something about yourself in every one of those. Even if it's like short,
yeah.
even if it's something like you learn, oh, I don't like this. I don't like when a girl
That's
does
what
that.
that's
Yeah.
important.
I'm
That's
too
huge.
patient.
That's huge. And I've been learning a lot about what I don't like.
Yeah. Now here's the other side of that sword is you got to be careful you don't learn too much about what you don't like because then at some point everything becomes a deal breaker. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Right.
Like then you just have this idealized version of a woman that doesn't exist in reality.
And that's kind of my fucking problem right now.
Yeah, but no, listen, you're young. I always say that shit doesn't happen until you're like past your mid-30s.
Okay, that makes
You know
sense.
what I mean? Like if you're a dude, you've never been married, never been in a real serious relationship, and you're over say 35 roundabout, like then you're gonna have a hard time when you eventually do find somebody you want to settle down with, because you're gonna be so set in your ways. It's gonna be hard to adjust for another person. Like I got married, I was 32. I got married in 2017. I don't remember how old I was, but like I lived alone for 9 years straight, so I was set in my ways. Like, listen, I come home, there's nobody here. I can do whatever the fuck I want. I can sit in my underwear on the couch and just play Dynasty Warriors till 9 at night. It doesn't matter,
Right.
you know. But when you have other people, now everything has to adjust,
Everything.
and you don't realize how much has to adjust until that other person is there all the time. So, and it's hard if you know that, like you said, that communication, that's huge. It's huge. It's so big
100%.
because it's not even just communicating. It's actually having the patience and thinking about what it is you're trying to communicate. Like if you're arguing, are you trying to win the argument, or are you trying to actually move forward in the relationship? And a lot of people get hung up there. I want to be right. Okay, but you know, what effect is this having on the union? You know what I mean?
If it's not bettering the relationship, there's no point in it.
Exactly.
I agree. Treat the relationship, in my opinion, I used to use this analogy with my ex. Treat the relationship like a business, right? We're both partners in this business. We want this business to be successful, right? Our relationship is the business. So what is the best thing for this relationship, for this business to thrive? Let's do what it needs for this thing to be alive and stay alive.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
What's best for the two of us together, not
not just
yourself
for you and
individually.
just for me. Yeah, our combined effort on this thing called a relationship. What can we do to cultivate this and make it great?
And it's hard, man. It's
It's
hard because
hard.
sometimes you just want to be fucking right. I know I'm right, but what am I gaining from this? You know?
And I learned that,
Getting
especially
triggered.
with women,
Exactly.
being
Who's
right
getting
isn't
triggered?
always
Me.
good.
Yeah.
Just hearing this.
Yeah, but that's the truth of it, and that's the reality. And it's not always going to be 50-50. You know,
Nah,
sometimes you're
it's
going to have to put in 80,
compromise.
and sometimes she's going to have to put in 70 or 80, or you know what I mean? Like
Depends on
it
what
changes.
is, yeah.
It changes from the situation. Sometimes you need to lean heavily on the other person, but it's all about trust. You know, as long as that trust is maintained, then you can feel comfortable enough to communicate what you really feel. Because that's the other thing we talked about earlier. Like you don't want the person you love to be disappointed in you.
No.
So sometimes we censor ourselves, and we always wonder, like, I don't know why she doesn't understand what I'm trying to say.
Mhm.
Well, it's because we're not really saying it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're sugarcoating it. We're pussyfooting around.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you can just be honest with someone and actually trust them enough that they're not going to walk out the door as soon as they find the real you, then the relationship can really grow from that. I think that's the problem a lot of us have, is that we can't really say what we really mean because we're afraid of the consequences of it.
It's really
And the
hard.
funny thing is, once I got older and I started like really advancing with the communication that I have with women, I realized that they prefer you just keeping it real.
Mm-hmm.
They love that shit. Like if you just keep it real and you give them the option to feel how they want to feel,
Yes.
that's what they want. When you tell them things in a way where you're withholding some information and you're making it sound one way when it's really another,
Oh, baby, I didn't want to upset you.
they hate that shit
Yeah.
Yeah.
with a passion.
You're taking away their agency.
Yeah. Give them the option to feel how they want to feel. Say it straight up. And I had to realize that that's what they like, just being straight up.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah.
But you got to establish that in the beginning, too. You can't be like,
Yeah.
like you said, just telling them everything they want to hear in the beginning, and then like
switch up.
6 months down the road, it's like, nah, baby, I don't like that. That dress looks like shit.
like
That's
what?
too
Yeah,
blunt.
they're like, damn, honey, you
Too
never
honest.
said that before.
I do think CR is gonna find love before me though.
You
You think
do?
so?
Yeah.
Why?
I do. I just feel that. I feel like I don't have commitment issues, but I definitely have a wandering eye. I feel like every time I've been in a relationship or like been dating someone else way doper always comes around in my vicinity, and it's like, yo, you're so dope, but I'm with this also dope person. It's like, what do I do? I'm always at this crossroads.
I have a question. What's your rule of thumb for dope?
like,
Are we talking physically or full package?
I usually starts physically. Then
That's always how it starts. That's fair.
yeah. Then it's
We're men.
Then it's just like how that person makes me feel when I communicate with them or I'm with them.
Do you think it's something? You think maybe it's not necessarily that you just happen to meet someone else who happens to be dope, but maybe it's it's almost like the novelty of that person. It's like that the unknowns. Like they seem like they're everything you've been looking for, and then you meet them, and then you really get to know them, and you find out, maybe it was just like that was my perspective from the position I was in at the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I want to add a caveat. I've never cheated, but
No,
I've just I just my spirit just goes from woman to woman, like no matter what. Like I just love women, and I just don't know, like the longest relationship I had was almost 3 years. My most recent relationship was my best relationship. It was only 8 months. So I just don't know what's meant for me relationship wise going forward. Of course, I want marriage. I want love. I want kids. I want 2 kids. But my wandering eye, like, I don't know if it's just my dick or whatever. Like, I just love women. I love the idea of women. And I feel comfortable communicating with multiple women at a time. I like different personalities. I like different feelings I get from these different women. So I just don't know what I need to do in order to get to your state, a mature state.
Well, I think everybody's different to a certain extent. And one thing that always helped me was I always try to just turn the tables. I think of like, how would I feel if somebody was doing this to me?
Right.
You know what I mean? And that kind of kept me on
In line.
Not that I really ever had a problem with like temptation or anything like that. That's just not me. And plus, like, you know, I understand, like, what you see in a handsome man here, but I was never like Mr., and I was never the ladies' man, so to speak. But, I was very, very lucky to find the woman that I did. That's not to denigrate her at all. That's just saying that, like, I was just lucky that time. But my point being is that, when it comes to like a wandering eye, for instance, like you said, like, how would you feel if the lady you were with did the exact same thing? Not that she was being unfaithful, but just, her, having good conversations with other men, like, just always like put yourself in their shoes, or like put their shoes on you, if that makes more sense.
I'm not that insecure anymore. Like I know what I'm bringing to the table, so it's like I know whoever else you may be talking to won't compare to what I'm bringing.
But no, what I mean though, like, consider how you feel when you talk to these other women.
Right.
When you're talking about, like, you feel conflicted because now you met someone else that's dope.
Yeah.
Like, what would you think if the woman you were with was having that feeling about somebody else? You know what I mean? Like,
as long as it's communicated, because I'm very open with every woman I speak to about this exact thing. So if we have that communication, maybe from the beginning, a weekend, month in, or whatever, and I have that awareness, I'll be able to move comfortably and accordingly. But if it was behind my back, when I'm being honest, I would feel some type of way.
No. Well, I mean, consent is the biggest thing. As long as you guys are open and honest about everything, then there is nothing off limits as long as you guys are consenting.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Especially if we're intimate. Like, I don't, I personally can't have multiple sexual partners at a time. I just to be safe, the safety aspect of it all. But communicating, like flirting, that shit don't bother me.
Yeah.
I had this conversation with my ex because we're still friends, and I told her, because I still evaluate my emotions, in respect to in respect to our relationship, and I still feel like I love her, right? But the thing that made me not want to be in a relationship was because I started realizing that even when you love somebody, you're like, I don't know, this is my truth, and I think it's a lot of men who feel like this. Sexually, we're gonna be attracted to many women. I don't need, in reality, right? Yeah, you get to know them and then have sex. But if we're just going off of raw emotion, raw urges, I don't even give a damn what their name is. You know what I'm saying? If you got nice boobs, you got a pretty face and a fat ass, it's just like, yo, it can go down, right? We're primal. We're primal. We're genetically engineered to think that way, right? We're made to procreate. So that's not necessarily our faults that we think that way, but we are intellects, right? We have conscience. So it is our fault if we allow ourselves to our behavior to be dictated by that primal instinct, right? Because we're evolved, right?
100%, yeah.
Right? So that's the other side of the coin. But when it comes to a complete natural, innate urge, we all as men think that way. So I told my ex, like, sexually, I'm going to be attracted to many women. Like, that's just what it is. And I was confused about that because I was like, how can I love her but still want to have sex with this random girl on Instagram? You know what I'm saying? Like, I really struggle with that because I didn't understand that. Like, I know I love you, and on top of that, it was long distance.
Mm.
And we did the long distance thing for about 2-3 years. But it got to a point where I was depressed because I was being loyal, but I was fucking depressed.
No, it's hard. I mean,
It's
how long were you guys
hard.
going between like seeing each other?
Sometimes it'd be a month, sometimes it'd be 3 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it'd be 2 weeks. We had periods of time where it'd be back to back, like we see each other every 2 weeks for like a couple months, and then we have a time where we don't see each other for a whole month. Then the pandemic hit, and she works for the federal government, and we weren't together during that time, but we still were seeing each other all the way up into the pandemic. I'm talking about literally a week before the pandemic started, I had seen her.
Mm-hmm.
That's the last time I saw her in person. That was in March. You know what I'm saying? That's the longest I've ever went without seeing this person. So imagine if we even were still in our relationship, how hard, for me, it would have been hard. I'm a person who needs physical affection. I'm a Leo. All right. My love language is physical, words of affirmation, gifts, but like I need that physical aspect. So learning that about myself, it was a very tiring lesson because I was literally torturing myself being in this situation because I know I loved her. I know I wanted to be with her, but I couldn't be with her in this particular situation.
Consider this for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Loving someone and being dedicated to someone does not mean that you never find another person attractive.
Yes.
All that means is that you respect that person and you love them and you care about them enough that you're not going to be unfaithful to that agreement that you have when you decided to be together.
Yeah.
That's all that is.
I agree.
Like it's fine to be attracted to other people. There's nothing wrong with that. It's whether you act on those impulses.
And that's exactly my whole point. That's exactly my whole point because
But
we're
that
never going to stop being attracted to other
but
people.
there's nothing wrong with you for feeling that way. That's all I'm saying. Like that's human. Like I'm sure that my wife watches, movies with Mario Casas, this guy from Spain is fucking hunk asshole douchebag. But you know what? She's not like sitting there drooling at the TV. Yeah. She loves me enough to be respectful. Like I know he's a better looker than me. It's fine.
Right.
But she's not. You know what I mean? Like she's not being disrespectful about it.
Yeah.
You know, like so it's all about.
I
that.
struggle with that though because I used to think, all right, well, if I'm thinking this, it can lead to a different type of behavior. I'm more susceptible to cheating if I'm in a certain situation because of this. You know what I'm saying? And plus, I've already, like I said, inherited the sins of my father, and I'm a hypersexual. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I it's the truth. I have a high libido, so it's just like I felt like it was a recipe for disaster, and I didn't want to damage our friendship.
Well, I mean, long distance makes it harder, no doubt.
Yeah.
But as long as you're honest about stuff that's going on,
and that's what she respected.
Yeah, you don't want to hurt anybody. You want
I kept it real with her.
Yeah, if you can't do it, if you can't keep that commitment, then
I told her.
Yeah, you owe the person at least that to be like, listen, I don't think this is going to work. I can't commit to what we talked about.
Ultimately, that's what it ultimately came to, and she's still my friend to this day because I never did her dirty. I just kept it real.
Well, you did a stand-up guy move. You told her how you felt, and it is what it is. And that way, I mean, it may not have been pleasant to hear that, but at least you respect the person enough to be honest and have a difficult conversation. That's the part that a lot of guys duck. We don't want to have that difficult conversation.
Yeah.
We think we can get away with it.
You know man, I avoided that shit for so long. I mean, I knew what I wanted to say.
It's like a Band-Aid, bro.
But
Just get it over with.
Man, it was bothering me for so long. I was dragging shit out. I'm talking about we took a vacation together, and I'm thinking this shit. And, fuck, man. I
see, Jeff, you got something brewing right now.
Yeah. Excuse me. I would like for you to speak to the feeling or the realization when you knew your wife was the woman you wanted to marry.
All right, so
how did you know? When did you know? What made you know?
Shout out to Dom, because Dom, my friend Dom from Three Ninjas Podcast, asked me the same question, and I apologize to anybody listening. I've told this story before, but sorry, no, it's all good. For me, I had this idea in my head. I don't know. I think I was in like middle school or something. I told myself, this through no evidence or anything. It's just something I told myself like out of thin air. I was like, you got to find a hot girl who doesn't act like she's hot. You know what I mean? That was what I told myself. And it made sense logically because you don't want someone who knows, who thinks their shit don't stink,
Hell
and who knows they can get over on people because of their looks.
Right.
Like, that's a bad recipe.
Hell yeah.
And you also don't want someone who thinks they're hotter than they are, and then, it's
You're
like,
not all that.
what the fuck is wrong with you?
Right.
You know? I'm doing all this for a 6? Get the fuck out of here. Just kidding.
Yeah.
But I just so happened that I met my wife. She walked into the bar, and it was one of those things where it's like you hear the record skip in your head.
Love it.
Like my best friend Drew was sitting next to me. We were in New Orleans, all right, in the tequila bar. She walked in. I went like this. I grabbed his leg, like that, and I just like don't look. Oh, the hottest girl you've ever seen in your life just walked in. Like, try not to move my mouth.
Hey.
She's so hot. I'm gonna make a scene. But no, I mean, and then we got to talking, and we went on a few dates, and when you really get to talk to somebody, and she was up here visiting. We were in New York City. We took a walk on like the High Line and stuff. We were down in we went down to like the West Village, just a couple bars and had some dinner. Perfect. But just talking, you know what I mean? Like just getting a feel for who somebody is, and I could see like she came from like a humble background where it's like she's not acting like she can get whatever she wants out of somebody. But she was, to me, she was the most beautiful woman I ever saw. And to see that realness, you know what I mean? Like that she didn't have that air about her like she thought she was better than everyone else. Like she seemed humble. And when you really get to know somebody further and you see that they have a real generous heart, like that, to me, I was like, that's it. Like she's beautiful, and she would give you the shirt off her back. That's the kind of person she is. Right?
Love story.
That's rare.
It is rare, and that's why
rare.
I didn't wait. Like we met in September 2015. I proposed the next September, and that was going back and forth long distance. Yeah, that was me spending a small fortune in airfare. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I love that because like you show me like it's possible. Like I love the possibilities.
Let me add one more wrinkle to that. You might identify with this. I went through a long, long time. All those years I told you I was living alone, I was like, there's no way I'm getting married. Like now, like at first I was like, maybe I don't want to get married. And then I would have relationships, it would end badly, and I'm like, no, I definitely don't want to get married. Then another relationship, and it ends badly again. And I'm thinking like, this is just a sign. Like this is not for me. I was not meant to have a relationship like this. I was not meant to have a family. I'm a loner. I'm a lone wolf. I'm a one-man wolf pack. I'm like Zach Galifianakis, in The Hangover. And then just one day, something happens. You meet somebody. That's how you know you're getting old. You talk through birds. But that's what happens. They always say it happens when you least expect it. That part I've learned is true.
It's so true because that's the way I met my ex that I'm still in love with. He's shaking his head. I'm so messy.
I just feel like y'all are meant to be together.
Everybody feels like that. I feel like that in my spirit. Like
don't leave.
I just know, like she's supposed to be my wife and have my kids. Like I just feel like we met at a party.
What this guy needs, he needs to have his dreams accomplished before he could really be with this girl.
That's exactly.
That's it.
That's a big thing too. If you get at least set, at least comfortable on your own.
Yes.
You need to have that. That's your base. That's
first.
your floor.
Yeah. I have to have that first, and I'm still establishing myself right now.
You can't be that guy who's out there. I need somebody to take care of me. I don't cook for myself. I need somebody who's gonna wash. You can't do that
because I'm the total opposite of that.
That's something I see with a lot of guys from Miami. I don't do laundry. I need somebody who's going to do this. You know what I'm talking about?
Wow.
These guys,
I don't like it.
They can't do anything for themselves, and they depend on a woman for all that. If you have to do that, it's not going to work. It's not going to be as good as it could be.
No.
Right.
If you come to the relationship as a complete person,
yes,
and you're dealing with another complete person, or at least as close to that as you can get, because nobody's perfect.
Right.
That's where the success is.
And I think that's where we are because we both. Like, we've identified, like, she's still working on herself. I'm still working on myself. We met in college. So it's just like, you know what I'm saying? I know I'm going to still have my fun in between now and then, but I just feel like I know who wifey is.
Hey, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be.
Just, the universe keeps providing. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, I don't know. All the stars are aligned in her direction.
All right, so we're coming up close to the end here. I don't want to keep you guys all night. I appreciate you driving all the way out here. Before we get out of here, is there anything else you guys want to talk about? Any particular topics you had in mind?
I really want to know your connection with mental health.
My connection with mental health?
Yeah.
Well, we all struggle with it at one point or another. My whole thing is I'm not anybody special. That's the way I look at it. I'm just another guy. I'm going through a journey just like everyone else.
Mm.
So I'm not here to try to tell people what they should or shouldn't do.
Mm.
I'm just basically sharing my journey with the people that are listening.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like I said, like there was a point in time when I heard podcasts that talked about what I was going through, and that made me feel not alone. It made me feel like, oh, okay, so this is something that happens. It's not just me. Like I'm not isolated. You know, I'm not the only one. So I want to share what's happening to me with other guys in hopes that maybe somebody somewhere along their path in life is going to hear it and be like, oh, that's what I was dealing with last year, and this guy's talking about it right now. Like, you know what? Like, okay, that makes me feel a little better. It gives you a sense of relief, you know,
Yeah.
just to feel like you're not alone and build that community of guys. We're all dedicated to being better, and we raise better kids. We affect change that way where we exist. We want to be and exemplify the change we want to see in the world,
Yeah.
and hope that filters down to the people around us. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I just want to
100%.
be I want to be a positive person in life, and you can't do that if you don't talk about mental health issues. Whether even if you consider yourself mentally healthy,
Yeah.
like we all have struggles. So, but just having the conversation is a big step in the right direction, I think. And I just come to it very humbly. I don't know more than the next guy. This is what's happening with me. How about you?
Yeah.
You know?
I think being open to that is a huge step that a lot of people don't take. You know what I'm saying? Just being open to talk about how you feel and being honest about it. Even if you're mentally healthy, just like somebody who's physically healthy, they still have to exercise. You know what I'm saying? To
Mhm.
maintain that health. So there's things that we all need to do, healthy coping skills, being able to verbalize your traumas and being able to have great, coping mechanisms. It's important to know that, have insight, self-awareness, I think it's just super important, man.
I have a question for both of you actually, because I think it's perfect. Because like, there's two spectrums of the age gap, like older version of what I'm about to ask and younger. How has 2020 been for you? This has been the craziest year we've all experienced collectively. There's a lot of uncertainty every day, but I feel like it's more prevalent now with the inception of the coronavirus and whatever. I'm curious, how has 2020 been, and have you learned anything about yourself?
I'm
during this
actually going to
time?
let Ray go first.
I have learned plenty about myself, especially mental health wise.
Mm.
Being inside for so long, you're not going to school as much, and you're not really talking to as many people. You don't really let yourself out much. So you end up, either learning a lot about yourself or talking to new people and learning new things about them. But mainly, like, social media has been a big thing. Like, just in general within itself, social media, I feel like, especially for this generation, if you don't know like who you are, it's like a really bad place to be.
Mm.
Cause like you'll either run into because there's two giant big topics. It's either politics or what's happening with races at the moment, and it's just like, dude, like, wherever you are on this standpoint, it's either you can get canceled extremely fast and you'll have like a whole side of the internet against you, or you'll feel like egotistical because it's like, oh, this is my topic and I'm correct about this all the time. And I like, internet wise, I don't like any of this. The mask, got to keep it on now. Everything is completely different. Even with school, things are getting like way harder now. And going through grades and like thinking about what you're going to do with your future, it's kind of hard. Like, you don't really have, you know, they can open career prep and you can think about it, but you don't really like base yourself around anything. You don't really get to have a one-on-one. I feel like people need like a more physical version of school in order to be like connected. And it's hard to focus. It's hard to, like, you can sit at home and try to throw yourself into the computer and be like, oh, okay, like, maybe this can be easy, and then you just have like 800 pieces of homework and your teachers are on you, your teachers call your parents are on you, and then you also have home stuff to do, and you're just like, how do I get out of here? Like,
Mm.
it starts to turn into like a stress. And
Do you ever feel like basically trapped in the house now?
Yeah, you feel
'Cause
like
your whole life is in the house now.
yeah. Now it's like your friends are supposed to be in the house, and you know, especially with video games, you know, you're in a party all day. You're just like you don't get to go outside. You feel really trapped within the fact of school because you know if especially if your parents aren't helping out with it, you don't. You're getting all this school stuff thrown at you, and it's a lot at one time, especially if you're trying to pass an entire grade.
Yeah.
And it's like you'll legitimately have over 10 assignments that you have to do in one day just for the teachers to be like, oh, okay, you get like a slightly passing grade for this and whatever.
Have you been using the bike at all?
You don't really. I don't have any time
Mm.
at all. And
Yeah, I
like,
gave him my bike because you're right by New Brunswick, so he's on my like, bro, you got so much shit around here. You could ride the bike to like everywhere cool like in this area.
Literally.
You know,
But I know, like, with the freaking virtual schooling.
I knew
And
it
all
was hard,
that.
but I didn't know it was that bad.
you
It's a lot.
cannot. You can't like fight with the school system.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm happy as hell I'm not in school anymore. I'm not even gonna lie. I graduated college like 3 years ago. I'm like, ah.
oh, I seen it with my son. It's not easy. Imagine being younger than him. Imagine being a little kid.
That's what I was really thinking about when I asked that. Like, cause like,
Mhm.
I feel bad.
what are you finger painting virtually? Like, how do you? What do they do? Like,
Bro, I've stayed a couple days. I've had off, or I've seen him.
Mhm.
It's not good, man. Like I mean, my hat is off to the teachers. They're doing everything they can. They're really working their ass off. It's not easy having a bunch of little kids on a Zoom call. I mean, I don't think they use Zoom.
Trying to
but
keep their attention.
Yeah.
that's not easy.
All that.
Yeah, they're all over the place. You see the cameras like down here at the chin, or they're like eating Oreos and shit. You know, it's
Some teachers
It's-
are doing like they have like a virtual version and they'll have a physical version. It's like 10 and 10, and they're paying attention to two at a time, and so like you know one might get more attention than the other, and so sometimes you'll have a hard time with certain things. Like teacher, like come on, just tell me the question that you said like 3 minutes ago. Teacher's like, oh yeah, give me like 5 minutes, and in 5 minutes you're just like you never got what you're supposed to say to the teacher, and then you come out of there with like either misinformation, you don't do something right, and then that turns into like a ball of problems, and it just snowballs, and then like that just turns into stress that you
Consi-
really can't like get out.
consider this too. Like, what happens if say he or say my son doesn't know something and like the day is over now? Like, you can't ask the teacher. You're gonna ask me. You're gonna rely on my memory.
Go to the office.
go to Google.
Yeah.
We got problems now. You know,
I get it.
like for me, I'm in a situation where really not much has changed because I've been working through the whole thing. I've been considered essential. I work construction, and it just so
Mm.
happens that where I work in Jersey City, they part of the building is considered low income, so that falls under the loophole of essential, even though majority of it is like luxury high rise shit. Come on, guys, like who,
That's a good job out in Jersey City.
Yeah,
I went to Jersey City University.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm working right now right on Columbus Boulevard.
Okay.
So I'm right on Columbus and Warren.
Okay. That's down the hill.
Yeah, I'm all the way downtown.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been working through this whole thing. So for me, the change has been coming home and seeing the toll it's taken on my wife and my son, and you know my in-laws live here too. You know, for my father-in-law, nothing changed for him because he was already working from home. My mother-in-law, she doesn't work; she's hanging out, helping around the house. Nothing changed for her. But now my wife is home and my son is home, and I see it. I see it big time. You know that it's like cabin fever. Imagine being like a 9-year-old kid. You can't go outside, can't play with your friends.
Man,
Like it's
tough.
I feel awful, and I'm trying to do stuff for him, but especially now with the cold weather,
oh yeah, lockdown was assured anyways with the cold weather coming.
bro.
Now with COVID and cold weather.
We've had to have some serious heart to hearts, me and my son, about stuff because it's taken a toll on him. It's not his fault at all, but it's affected him big time. And I'm trying to do what I can to, you know, level it out a little bit, but it's not easy, man. I'm really keeping my fingers crossed that this stuff ends soon. You know, I mean,
so.
we're doing everything we can. We're wearing masks. We're getting tested.
Yeah.
You know, I got to get tested for work and stuff. But, you know, if people don't want to wear a fucking mask, like, yeah, no wonder the shit's still going on.
Right.
You guys are out there still coughing and breathing on each other.
Going to damn parties.
Singing fucking Village People to one another, spitting in each other's eye. Oh, big surprise. It's coming back for a third wave now.
Stupid shit.
Like you're mad the schools are closed. Well, wear a mask. Maybe we can open them back. I don't know.
People are ridiculous.
What do I know? I just work here, you know.
I always wear my mask whenever I go to the grocery store. I feel weird if I don't have it now.
Yeah, but you know what though? It's the minimum. It's the minimum we can do, and it's not for us.
Yeah, it's for
the guy next to us.
Yeah,
you know.
It's just like
I vividly remember when like COVID was just starting to come around like late February, early March.
Mm-hmm.
I remember walking into a quick check. I was the only person in there with my mask on. I was paranoid from the jump. Oh, life-altering virus? Give me a mask.
Yeah.
I walk into that quick check. I'm the only one wearing a mask. Everyone's looking at me like I'm crazy. I walk into that same quick check the other day. Everyone got a mask on. It's just crazy to think people like when people hear certain things, it's like they don't take it seriously until there's, I guess,
until it affects them.
Yeah, and it's just like, yo, are you serious? Like,
well, that's the problem too, is that it became political, especially in an election year.
Yeah.
Like that was the worst thing that could have happened. So now you have two sides, mask or no mask, and neither side's going to back down. But clearly, one side is right. Like I hear people that don't want to wear the mask, I'm like, what's the matter? You too soft to wear it. Yeah. It's gonna hurt your sensitive face. Oh, poor baby. Like, that usually straightens them out.
Are you gonna take the vaccine?
Well, here's the thing. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. Okay. My thing is like, vaccines usually take a long time to be developed. This one, you know, because it was all hands on deck, it was kind of rushed. So. Yeah, of course, I am a little concerned. And the problem is, even all the misinformation out there, you see it, like, yeah, it's bullshit, but you're still like, I don't want to be walking away with Bell's palsy from taking
I was just about to say, you saw that post? I'm just like...
But that's the thing, like, that's what we're talking about, the misinformation. Like, we know it's probably not true, but it's enough to spook you, you know?
Yeah, it's just like, I don't want to take the risk.
I don't want to be that first guy, but I'll be, like, number 50-something in line. You know?
It's gonna
the
be
only
like,
what you gonna say?
No, it's gonna be just big for like vaccinating in school and stuff, and like a whole new vaccination, along with like the 87 you have to get for your arms because people like to cough on your chest, and you have to like be invulnerable to it or whatever. But
I was gonna say, I think the only way I'll take the vaccine, God forbid, is if I contract COVID or something like. That's the only way. Like, I'm sorry, I don't know if I consider it superstitious. But I don't even get the flu shot. You know what I'm saying?
I don't get that either.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I just don't want to.
I think it's natural to be concerned.
Yeah.
It's just a matter when we fall prey to the irrational fear.
Right.
You know, because we all know better. But again, it's, you know, it was in a hurry, so it's like, you know, we all know what happens when you rush things.
We all know. It's gonna be a lot of trial and error with this.
We're gonna find out. We're gonna find out.
It's gonna be very interesting.
At 11:59, December 31st, 2019, you never could have told me the year would be like this. You never could have convinced me there was a life-altering virus.
This year has been like a movie.
It has.
Yeah. I think if you made this year into a movie, people would walk out and be like, "It's so unbelievable."
Yeah, that all this happened in 1 year.
Yeah,
never could have.
That's so true. If you turn this year into a movie, yeah.
You telling me Kobe and Black Panther died?
Right.
Get the fuck out.
And now Debo from Friday.
Oh no, that.
Like what? It's crazy.
Have you seen Friday?
Yeah. Yes,
okay, I'm just making sure.
Yeah.
I don't want to take away your black card.
Yeah.
Bro, life is crazy, bro.
But we made it.
I know, Tiny Lister. I know.
You got your black card still.
School kind of gets like body slammed on you if something happens like that.
That's the part I feel.
It was like 2 weeks, man. Like 2 weeks. You hear about a virus or whatever, and you know you're tech savvy enough to go look at Twitter or Instagram or something. And you're just like, oh damn, people are dying and stuff. And then like you get like a week out of school. It's like, oh, you get like a 2-week Rona break, and then you know back to regular programming. Go back to school 8 o'clock. Sit there, look at a teacher, die of sleep. But no, you get taken out of school completely, and then they're talking about use the computer you have from school, which is like laggy, broken, normally can't get a new one. You have a problem with charging, good luck. It's a whole ball of problems. Your computer doesn't work.
Figure it out, kid.
Yeah, figure it out. Go do it by yourself. Like, and that's just it's not healthy at all. Like, you can't do anything with that.
Well, we're here for you, buddy. You know where to find me.
Got it.
Anything else before we get out of here, guys?
Can we like promote our social medias and all that?
Yeah.
Trust me, we're gonna get to that. I'm not gonna leave you hanging on that part.
Bet.
Anything else you guys want to address though? Like any questions before we leave?
It's been very interesting.
I've really enjoyed this. I needed this.
It's very cathartic.
I really hate podcasting virtually. I kind of getting tired of being in the house,
Mm-hmm.
but to be around genuine individuals, it just feels good.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Likewise.
It's been great.
All right, so here comes the plug time. What do you guys want to plug? Promote whatever you guys got. Tell them where they can find you.
So follow me on social media. Instagram is at theav360. Twitter.com. Twitter.com / THT ambitious guy. That ambitious guy. And of course the podcast introvertedpod.com for all details, bookings, merchandise is on there as well. All our socials for the podcast. And my last plug is this is the first place I'm ever gonna really announce this. February 28th, I'm releasing my first book, The Avenue, A Personal Dictionary. It's a self-reflective and transparent tale about my desire to find healing and change within while battling my depression and my insecurities. It took me 4 years. I'm so proud of this shit. This book is the best thing I've ever done in my entire life. I found healing through my book. You're gonna get my healing my healing in tangible form, and I'm really proud of it. So February 28th, 2021, my first book will be available for purchase on Amazon for $11 paperback, $2.99 ebook. So please look out for that and support that when it's out. I want to be a bestseller.
Major.
You guys heard it here. We had a Pot Amongst Men exclusive tonight.
Yeah.
Major.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys can definitely follow me on Instagrams at CR_908. I'm mostly on Instagram. You can find me on Twitter by the same name, but I'm not really on Twitter. I'm really on Instagram. Right now I have a single called Visions featuring Matt Diana. It's on all major music platforms. It's a single for my R&B project called Cold Hearted, and it's dropping. It was going to be for New Year's, but I'm pushing it back because I have to add another song with an artist on my label on there, so I have to push it back. So it's going to come out the weekend of Valentine's Day. But I'll drop another single for New Year's instead. So follow me on Instagram to keep up with all of those goodies at CR_908.
Beautiful.
Yeah, we both dropping in February. That's good.
I know. Yeah.
We're gonna change the world.
Change the world. I told you 2021.
Well, you guys know where to find us as usual. If you're watching this, please make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube. And you can find us wherever you get your podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Amazon Podcasts. Wherever you get your podcasts, we are there. Please make sure you follow us and rate if you're on a platform that allows that. It helps us in the algorithms. And, yeah, make sure you follow us on Instagram, A Pot Amongst Men, on Instagram and Twitter. And for any long-form questions or comments or concerns, you can email us, apotamongstmen@gmail.com. That's all I got tonight. Guys, I want to say thank you very much for making the trip out here. I really enjoyed the conversation. Like you said, I don't think you're the only one that needed this. It's nice to have people here and really, enjoy the vibe, get to know somebody. Hopefully we can do this again in the future.
Please.
You can come on our show.
Yes.
I would love to.
Yes.
So you
Both
say
to
what?
New York.
Both of you.
You guys got to
Look
come
at that.
to New
You're going to
York.
be my partner now, bro. This is
Do it.
this is Ray's first podcast, right?
Yeah.
Did
Whoa.
good.
First time.
Did
You killed
good.
it.
Killed it, bro.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. So we'll see you guys next week. Peace. Before we stop, I'll make this a picture later. Just kind of pose for like half a second.
Shit.
So this will be the cover for the YouTube thing.
Perfect.
That's it.
Awesome.
All right. Just a picture.
That was
Okay,
so
press
great.
stop on the
I have to urinate.
camera.